She walked into that courtroom thinking she was fighting for a piece of land. She had no idea she was about to find out that the man she called her husband, the man she built her entire life around, gave her best years to, and defended on national television, had been quietly, legally, and deliberately erasing her from the one thing he promised would always belong to all of them. And the worst part? He didn't do it alone. The signature on that document, the one that changed everything, didn't belong to Kody Brown. It belonged to the woman sitting 3 rows behind Christine in that courtroom, wearing a charcoal dress and a carefully arranged expression of innocence. The woman who had spent years being painted as the favorite. The outsider. The one the other wives never fully trusted. Turns out, they were right not to. What happened inside that St. George courtroom over the next 4 days wasn't just a divorce hearing. It was 17 years of buried secrets finally clawing their way to the surface, one witness at a time. It was a family that millions of people watched every week, laughed with, cried with, argued about at dinner tables across America, completely and permanently destroying itself under oath. Meri talked. Janelle broke. Christine held the line. And Kody Brown sat at that defendant's table watching everything he built collapse in front of him. And the only person in that room who didn't look surprised was the judge. Because she had seen this before. The faces change, the family structure changes, but the story is always the same. Someone trusted, someone betrayed, and someone finally stopped being silent. Stay right here. Because the moment Janelle took that stand and said what she said, nothing in this story was ever the same again. Drop a comment right now and tell me, did you ever trust Robyn? Because by the end of this, your answer is going to change. The courtroom in St. George. Utah smells like old paper and carpet cleaner, and the fluorescent lights above don't care who's about to have their life exposed beneath them. But someone is. And her name is Christine Brown. She walks through those double doors on the morning of March 14th, wearing a pale blue blazer and a carefully composed expression. Her hands, folded tight in front of her, tell the real story. Knuckles white, jaw set, eyes moving, before anything else, straight across the room to Kody Brown. He's at the defendant's table in a dark gray suit, leaning toward his attorney, not looking at her. That particular brand of barely contained frustration familiar to anyone who ever watched their family on television is written all over his face. And in the 3rd row of the gallery, sitting very still with her hands folded in her lap, is Robyn Brown, watching everything. Christine's attorney, Laura Hendricks, opens her briefcase with quiet efficiency. She told her paralegal last week that this case is different. It's not just about money, she said. It's about 17 years of a woman being told her feelings came second. Today, she intends to prove it. When Christine filed for divorce in November 2021, the public assumed it was painful, but simple. What nobody knew was that her decision to leave pulled a thread, and that thread began unraveling a financial arrangement so tangled that even Christine didn't fully understand what she'd been living inside until her attorney laid it all out in front of her. What she saw made her cry, not from sadness, but from the specific devastation of realizing she had trusted the wrong people for the right reasons. And the first witness who can prove it takes the stand tomorrow morning. Her name is Janelle Brown. The morning Janelle Brown takes the stand, the courtroom feels different, tighter, like everyone inside it has collectively decided to breathe a little less. She walks to the witness box in a simple burgundy blouse, no jewelry, hair pulled back, a woman who has spent 20 years being the most practical person in every room she's ever entered. She doesn't look at Kody. She doesn't look at Christine. She looks at the judge, settles into the seat, and folds her hands on the railing like she's done this before. She hasn't. But she's been preparing for it longer than anyone knows. What Janelle Brown is about to say has never been said out loud. Not to producers, not to cameras, not even to her own children. Laura Hendricks approaches slowly, deliberately. She establishes the basics first. How long Janelle was part of the family, her financial contributions, her role managing the household budgets across multiple properties. Janelle answers each question in that measured, even voice of hers. Calm. Controlled. Then Laura slides a document across the railing. "Mrs. Brown," she says quietly, "can you tell the court when you first became aware that your name had been removed from the Coyote Pass title filing?" The courtroom goes absolutely still. Janelle looks down at the document. Something moves across her face. Not shock, because she already knew, but the specific, tired grief of seeing a betrayal confirmed in black and white in a room full of strangers, under oath. 2019, she says. "I found out in 2019. Laura lets the silence do its work. "And did Kody inform you before that change was made?" Janelle looks up, and for the first time since she sat down, she looks directly at Kody Brown. "No," she says. "He did not." The twist nobody saw coming doesn't arrive with fanfare. It doesn't announce itself. It walks quietly into the courtroom during the afternoon recess, hands Douglas Park a sealed envelope, and changes everything before anyone even realizes what has happened. The envelope contains a declaration, a voluntary one, from Meri Brown. The gallery murmurs the moment Laura Hendricks reads the name aloud. Because Meri, quiet, complicated, perpetually caught between loyalty and survival, has not spoken publicly about the divorce proceedings. She has kept her distance, posting carefully worded things on social media that revealed nothing and protected everyone. Most people assumed she had chosen Kody's side simply by staying silent. They were wrong. And the 4 pages inside that envelope are about to prove exactly how wrong. Laura requests a brief recess to enter the declaration into evidence. Judge Marlowe grants it without hesitation. Across the room, Douglas Park's easy confidence shifts. Just slightly, just enough for the people watching closely to notice. He leans toward Kody and whispers something tight and urgent. Kody's face does something complicated, because Meri's declaration doesn't just support Christine's financial claims. It goes further. It describes a specific conversation, a private dinner in 2018, during which Kody allegedly outlined a plan to consolidate the Coyote Pass holdings under a single legal entity. An entity, Meri writes, that was presented to her as protecting all 4 wives equally. She signed the agreement that night believing that. She later discovered the entity protected only one wife's interest above all others. The declaration ends with 11 words that land in that courtroom like a stone dropped into still water. "I signed because I trusted him. I should not have." Christine presses her fingers flat against the table and says nothing. She doesn't need to. Robyn Brown has been sitting in that 3rd row for 2 days without making a sound. Watching. Processing. Keeping her expression carefully neutral in the way that only someone with years of practice can manage. But when Meri's declaration is read into the record, something behind Robyn's eyes changes. And the woman sitting next to her, a friend who drove 3 hours to be here, reaches over and gently touches her arm. Robyn pulls it away. By the time court reconvenes after recess, Douglas Park has filed a motion to challenge the declaration's admissibility. Judge Marlowe reviews it, asks 2 clarifying questions, and denies it in under 4 minutes. The declaration stands. And then Laura Hendricks does something nobody in that courtroom anticipated. She calls Robyn Brown to the stand. The gallery erupts. Not loudly, but in that particular wave of sharp whispers and shifting bodies that means everyone just felt the temperature change at once. Robyn stands slowly. Her charcoal wrap dress, so composed this morning, suddenly looks like armor that wasn't built for this kind of battle. She takes the oath. She sits. She smooths her dress once over her knees. Laura doesn't approach aggressively. She doesn't need to. She simply asks Robyn whether she was present at the 2018 dinner Meri described in her declaration. Robyn's answer comes after a pause just long enough to matter. "Yes," she says softly. "I was there." "And were you aware?" Laura continues, her voice gentle but her eyes absolutely steady. "That the legal structure discussed that evening would ultimately place primary interest in Coyote Pass under your name?" Robyn's chin lifts slightly. Her hands grip the railing. The whole room leans forward. She opens her mouth, and what comes out is not what anyone prepared for. "I knew," Robyn says, "but not the way you're making it sound." Her voice is steady but thin, the voice of someone holding themselves together through sheer force of will. She turns slightly toward Judge Marlowe, as if appealing directly to her, as if the judge might understand something the attorney is deliberately refusing to. "Kody told me it was temporary, a legal technicality to simplify the financing. He said everyone's interests were protected equally, and that it would be restructured once the builds began." Laura lets the explanation settle. Then, carefully, she places another document on the railing. "Mrs. Brown, this is the original LLC agreement filed in October 2018. Can you identify whose signature appears on page 4, directly beneath the clause establishing primary beneficial interest?" Robyn looks down. The courtroom holds its breath. And when she looks back up, something in her face has quietly, irreversibly broken. "That's my signature," she says. "And below it, whose signature is absent?" Robyn doesn't answer immediately. She presses her lips together. In the gallery, someone shifts. A chair creaks. Outside, somewhere beyond these beige walls and humming fluorescent lights, the desert goes on existing in total indifference. "Christine's," Robyn finally says, "and Janelle's, and Meri's." Laura nods once, not triumphantly, but with the calm gravity of someone who has just placed the final piece of something in full view of everyone in the room. From the plaintiff's table, Christine watches Robyn's face. Not with anger, not with satisfaction, with something far more complicated. The exhausted recognition of a woman finally seeing confirmed what she spent years being told she was imagining. Kody stares at the table in front of him. Douglas Park sets down his pen. And in the back row, the journalist stops typing, because some moments don't need commentary.